All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we're going to go over the most important updates that you need to know about is and gods. Of course, the two hottest places on Earth right now, and of course, the most controversial. There is a lot of events kind of happening all at the same time. It is very hard. It's every single minute that goes by, something is changing. So we have been doing daily updates because by the next day, things can be completely outdated. So it's getting really insane as far as the countries that are getting involved. This is all to par what we thought was going to happen. This is what we've been telling and warning people about for years. And it's really exactly down the path we thought it was going to be. Before we start, though, remember we have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document on this show. So you will always have access right over on marfooglenews.com. All you have to do is look for today's thumbnail, what they're saying tomorrow, and then, of course, ready for anything, full updates on tomorrow. This will bring you to a list of all of the things that we're going to talk about, plus a whole lot more, and we, of course, update this. So we're going to go over some of that now. The updates on 2,800 now. The number is up to 2,800 perished, including 27 U.S. citizens. So we're going to talk about this and much more on today's Marfoogle News. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Ready for anything. I will be ready for anything.
All right, so now at 2,800, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is happening, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine, but still a little worried about what's going to happen.
So tomorrow is a majority of what we're going to give you an update on, because there was kind of a call to action for one side. This is a worldwide call to action, and again, tomorrow, hopefully nothing happens. That is everyone's hope, but with what is happening, obviously government agencies and police are preparing for something, or at least preparing to be on high alert. We have, of course, a couple pieces here. They are going to be ordering all cops in uniform. We're going to talk about that. They are in several major cities. In fact, some have said there was a Foogle family member who is a police officer currently, and they said that all cities are going to be, even small towns are being told to be on higher awareness. So that is all for tomorrow, because of certain people basically telling them that Friday the 13th is going to be a significant day to essentially push back, right? So we don't know exactly what's going to happen, and I'm sure tomorrow, if nothing, absolutely nothing happens, I will be happy. I'm sure most of you will be as well. I don't think anybody is hoping for something bad to happen, but we do warn you accordingly if there is a lot of chatter about a certain day. And this isn't like a internet thing where they say, oh, on the 23rd, the world will end. This is like calls from certain groups that are saying, hey, do these things. Now, with everything that has happened over the last 3 years, including a lot of movement of people into other countries and a lot of people being busted with crazy plans and arrested by departments like Department of Homeland Security and things like that, it's definitely a day that we need to all be aware of. But Dex, I'm actually going to have you go over Iran's president Ibrahim Raisi and the Saudi Crown Prince. What did they just do?
Okay, so I want to go back because we were talking quite a bit over the this week, but also before this, about how the Saudis were trying to do a deal with the U.S. around military, and they've always sort of had a conflict with their neighbor across the water there, and that would be Iran. So now, not out of the blue, but now all of a sudden these two are meeting, and they're meeting in a united way, and they're coming, and the quote is that they need to end the crimes against those that are in the strip, so to speak. So to see these two get together is one of the first signs, I think, that we were looking at to see what would happen with the other Arab nations around there, and how they may or may not come together and align. And if they start to align against it's going to start to look like a major conflict will erupt, and this will become more than just an issue that they're dealing with on the strip, and become a complete a Middle Eastern issue and conflict. And that's what everything looks like it's setting up for, with the amount of stuff we're moving in, and the fact that now we're seeing these major nations, like these two guys who don't normally necessarily get along, all of a sudden have something to get along with.
Yeah, and mind you, if you look in the history books, or at least in the history books, they say, of course, that a huge number of people that contributed in the 2001 events were all from bin Salman's country. So there's a lot of folks bringing that back up, and then, of course, folks are talking about how these people usually do not talk at all. It's very much the opposite. So this is something to pay attention to. The bigger picture here is really, if you really wanted to be up on this, you have to follow every 6 hours and really be watching almost everything that's been happening. And you would have had to been following all of these events for the last 5 years, because there has been one incremental move towards this at a time. And most of the time, people really got distracted off onto other things. In the meanwhile, I mean, shoot, since 2019, we of course had that event. We continued to follow all of these little changes, the moves, the military moves, the money being put into spending. All of this has been lining up. I mean, it's been quite insane to see. And then UK is to deploy Royal Navy ships to support this Israel. So this is also another deployment, a big deployment. It says the UK will send surveillance aircraft and 2 Royal Navy ships to the Eastern Mediterranean in plans to support IS. Now, some folks have been asking, like, why do they need not only the USS Gerald Ford, the Ticonderoga, and all of the carrier strike group, really, plus UK Navy for basically battling with the Strip? Well, it's getting bigger than that. There are groups outside of the Strip that are actually getting involved, and many people believe that this is a sign it's about to get a whole lot bigger. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And again, this is now the UK jumping in. It says the aircraft will begin patrols tomorrow to track threats from regional stability, such as transfer of weapons to T groups, right? Groups. The package includes surveillance assets, helicopters, P-8 aircraft, and a company of Marines. So they are sending in kind of some of their frontliners and P-8 aircraft. So aircraft that can detect all sorts of things. Rishi Sunak said that the military support would prevent further escalation. I guess you could look at it like that, or it may bring other parties on their side in, which we just covered that that's happening. There's folks talking right now. Not to mention with this previous story, with these two getting along, how well have we been getting along with Saudi Arabia? If at one point they wouldn't even answer our calls, while at the same time rolling out the red carpet for Xi Jinping. It's pretty crazy to think about, considering where we were with them just five years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. It's not going in the right direction, many would say. Before we move on, just a reminder, we're independent news. Make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/EMP if you do want to protect yourself against an EMP strike. Again, it is hopefully an unlikely thing. This also protects against solar events. Now, we're actually going to be covering solar events on our later show over on Marfoogle TV because there was some major solar activity. Solar event, like a Carrington level event, will happen. It is a matter of when, not if. But it's really a matter if we are our grid is hardened by that point. If it hits right now, a Carrington level event hit us direct right on, the U.S. and every other country in its path is not ready. They say that 90% of us would perish in 1 year if our grid was knocked down. And that is something that is just absurd. There should be more money put into protection. But again, there's not. So they're not going to protect you. They're not going to put one of these on your cars. They're not going to make a law that says they need to be in it from manufacturer. They're just not. So if you do want to protect your vehicles, your trucks, your boats, your motorcycles, anything that rolls essentially has an EMP shield for, or anything that floats, you can get one of these on and it will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your device. We're independent, so that means we're literally on our own. Affiliates like this, when you go purchase, we believe we are not only helping you survive something that could be a very, very bad thing and getting prepared, and you are also helping us at the same time as getting a discount while doing so. So thank you guys for going through and checking it out. At the very least, I would consider looking at it because it is something that can protect your home, generators, pretty much anything that you want to keep running. And then Israel urges citizens abroad to avoid protests after calls for Day of Rage. That is what some are calling it. Dex, do you want to go over this? This is now a call to have people avoid the streets.
Yeah, so we reported yesterday what was said by one of the former leaders, I should say, of that group that runs the Strip, and what we're seeing now is more confirmation, and we're seeing acknowledgement from major governments. In this case, Israel coming out and saying it, but it's the National Security Council and the Prime Minister's office and the Foreign Ministry are urging anyone from their nation abroad to avoid any protests or demonstrations or wherever they may be taking place after this event has been called for that's supposed to take place tomorrow. So that's a pretty big statement coming out. And I think the important thing for us to know is that they're not just saying in their country, they're telling people abroad, meaning in the US or in any other country for that matter. But in the US matters to most of the people that we're talking to right here, probably in Canada, in Europe, because I know we have audience there, and even in Australia and other locations. So everywhere should be paying attention based on the threats that are coming out.
Now, it's up to you personally if you want to engage in any of that, but we just wanted to let you know that this is what's being said. On top of that, we actually have NYPD, and I believe there's at least confirmation of at least one more major city. The person I talked to is a police officer with that place, said, and I'm not going to say which city, but it is one of the, I would say, top 10 cities as far as metropolises go. It is not my own, and they are saying that they are getting prepared as well. You can pretty much expect if New York City is doing this, that California, different major cities are going to be doing this as well. Chicago, Seattle, cities in Colorado, Texas, they're all on high alert right now. And I think we'll find probably afterwards, especially if nothing goes down, we'll probably find out after the fact how much they raise their awareness. But they're probably not going to tell us before. The NYPD has ordered all cops to report in uniform starting Friday in anticipation of potential unrest stemming from the former leader of call on to stage global demonstration in support of the Strip. It says all, quote, all uniformed members of the service in every rank will perform duty in the uniform of the day and be prepared for deployment. I mean, can it get much clearer than that? All uniformed members of the service in every rank will perform duty in the uniform of the day and be prepared for deployment. Again, cops will not be granted excusals or shift changes, and the order will remain in effect until further notice, according to the memo. So if things start popping off tomorrow, then I guess they're working triple time. This is why we prep. Now, again, I hope that nothing happens tomorrow. I do not want bad things to happen, and I'm absolutely sure most of you as well. But there is this being said, and many people are, oh, they're just hyping it up. And I sure hope they're right, that this is all just hyped up and it's fear, right? If this is just fear-based, like scare the crap out of us so we ask for something, okay. But at the same time, we're going to follow it all the same. Preppers don't care if they think that it's Ganda. If there's a potential event, even if it's a 0.1% chance, then you prepare for it. You look at it and you say, well, if this did happen, how would we survive it? Or how would we adapt to it? This might be as simple as avoiding major cities and downtown areas. Then you could be safe. People will probably I guarantee people are going to get in fist fights tomorrow. People are probably going to get, and people are going to get hurt tomorrow. I can guarantee that. Tomorrow we will see different stories of the two sides clashing. But what we are hoping does not happen is something much more serious. It is the 7th day of the conflict, right? Before, the previous one was called the 6-day conflict or the 6-day war because it lasted 6 days. The Friday, tomorrow, is the 7th day of this battle. Now, usually symbolism and things like that don't really come into things or even conflicts like this, but when you're dealing with two holy lands where 7 is possibly an important number, or Friday the 13th may be there for some sort of shock value, it's something to pay attention to. As somebody pointed out, and we corrected, the 7th day in the Bible was the day of rest, right? The 6th day, man was created, which I think I did say 7th day was where man was created or whatever, the world was created. But the 7th day was the day of rest. So it also in the Quran, there is also in that holy book, there is much significance around the number 7. So we don't know if there's anything to do with that, but it is kind of strange that it is literally Friday the 13th tomorrow. Not really a good day in general for American superstitious folks, considering a whole line of horror movies that point out that that's a nasty day. But as far as the number itself, 13 is an evil number in general. So you can take it as just a bunch of superstition, or you could at least, try to have your wits about you, be self-aware. Now, Dex, let's talk about this tweet. This tweet comes next.
Okay, so this is the foreign minister from Iran, Amir Abdullahi al-Mahidin. I know I'm butchering his name. The main thing that is, this kind of goes hand in hand with the big meeting we talked about earlier, but this is a statement from him, and the statement specifically is, in the light of the continued aggression, war crimes, and the siege on the Strip, opening other fronts is a real possibility. So this whole notion of other fronts and bringing other nations into this conflict is exactly what we have said they will want to do. And if we see those signs, that those would sort of give us the idea that that's what's going to happen. So here's yet another one. So we had the first one we talked about right in the beginning, the meeting between Saudi and the president there, and now we've got the foreign minister making a strong statement talking about a real possibility of opening up other fronts on this. So strong words, and that's what we're paying attention to, is what they're saying and what they're doing.
So this is this is just yet another kind of point to talking about the other fronts that may open in this conflict. And then U.S. and Qatar agree to prevent dispersal of recently unfrozen funds. So the $6 billion that everybody's been talking about, Qatar just agreed to essentially refreeze that. And by the way, we talked about this the other day when this was all being kind of hashed out and everybody was calling for this to happen. It maybe it was on the original. I think that yeah, let me open up. Let me just make sure that there's no crazy things on this. Yeah, it essentially says that they're also monitoring the use, right? They're monitoring the use of it. It says literally that they're going to freeze it and that they're monitoring the use and the access. So I even asked a question. I said, well, if this was unfrozen, did they just pull it out in cash, or is it still somewhere? Can't they just refreeze it, or wouldn't they also see if they were taking out money and giving it to certain groups? Couldn't they see huge, withdrawals? And apparently, looks like they could. But again, it's not like that Iran was living paycheck to paycheck and they needed to specifically wait for this to be unfrozen to go give these guys money. So even the sense about this, like, because they got this, they were like, oh, now we can do a T attack. They could have done it before. They can do it at any time. They have other billions of dollars. But they say unfreezing this gave them extra pocket in their money. Like, we already wrote that off, so let's just spend it on, painting the town red, literally. They say that they can monitor it. Well, guess what? Either way, some folks may think this is a good thing, and freezing this country's money most likely is. But they're going to be pissed. We did like a deal with them where we said, here's 5 people. They said, here's 5 people. And then we reneged on that deal. So this is going to make some people angry. This is going to make them angry. And the reason we point that out is they could also then retaliate by doing something else. Going into tomorrow, the timing on this is kind of ludicrous. Now, shoot, is the other stuff? I think we the WikiLeaks and all that stuff, or the Wikipedia, that's on our other show, is it not?
That's correct.
Okay, so you guys
coming up on the next show.
You guys got to join us for our Marfoogle TV show because we are going into some of the stuff. There was just a recent admission by CIA that will absolutely blow your mind. Before CIA's involvement, according to this new information, if you believe what they just said, essentially that country that starts with an I and ran to the store was somewhat of a democratically run country before they stepped in 1953. There's some stuff about that, so we'll go into that. And they started the first Shah or king after that. They basically helped install and back it. It's so insane. Once you see the information there, it's absolutely nuts. So join us for the Marfoogle TV show. It's going to be another short show tonight to get through all of the other stuff that's going on. And we will touch on this because it is one of the most important things going on right now. Main point, though, people need to be self-aware tomorrow. It does not mean go hide under a rock, but it does mean that you need to be aware of your surroundings and where you are. You should have a basic plan with family already. If you watch this show on a regular basis, then you have most likely practiced or at least had some sort of basic plan if something crazy, absolutely over the top did happen. We can all hope and we can all pray and we can all have faith that nothing will happen. But again, if it does, most of you are in the boat of, well, at least we should prepare and be responsible. Again, it's a very simple way to put it. Here in the U.S., we look at it as a taboo to prep. You'll go out and buy insurance for your car because you may get in an accident. You get insurance for your phone, not thinking like, I'm going to drop this. You think you might. With food, why is it looked upon weird that you have extra food and water and things like this? I don't understand it either. So I would have some sort of basic plan just in case something does go down. And I am hoping that absolutely nothing goes down and it's way overhyped, just like many of you are hoping the same. Dex, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just hoping tomorrow's a giant nothing burger. But I just something in the hairs on the back of my neck sort of tell me we got to pay a little bit more attention. It's hard for them it's hard to believe that they would actually announce something and get everybody prepared for it, as opposed to go about surprise. So, but at the same time, the times are a little different right now, and actions are in the midst. Everything is up in air, and it's kind of hot. So we'll see.
And just want to point this out. The Qatar have said that none of the funds that have now gone to Qatar have actually been spent or accessed in any way by this country. So if you just look at this as kind of just try to look at this completely outside of it, go, okay, so they didn't actually use any of it. So those direct funds didn't go to fund this thing. So they're going to have that to argue and go, you could see those funds. They didn't get used for this, which they could just take $6 billion of their own money, since they know they have this, and they could spend on it, which they do fund these groups. But they're going to have this to argue and say, we didn't even touch that money, that none of that money went to that. And that they could then tell their people that, and that could be grounds to do a retaliation against the U.S. The U.S. is heavily involved. The U.S. just deployed massive amounts of troops over there, or in the area with the Navy. And then, of course, now you have the U.K. deploying as well. So this is getting spicy really quick. People, you know what to do. Head on a swivel. Dex, thank you so much for helping me cover this.
Absolutely. Much love, brother.
All right, you guys, we're going to head over to Marfoogle TV, our sister channel. If you haven't joined us for a live show over there, it's always a fun time. Again, these are live, so anything can happen. We will be starting in a few minutes, and if you're in the chat, stay there. We might be able to actually port you right over to the channel. So just stay put, hang out with your friends, and we'll be over on TV in about 10 minutes or less. So just stay put, or make sure if you're not seeing it, then make sure to head over to TV. Thank you guys. Much love. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out.
I will be ready for anything. I will be. I will be ready for